Hi, welcome to Tea Time with Amy and Bev. Hola.
Hola, good day.
Good day.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. On a Saturday, I mean on Tuesday. I'm doing all right. Got lots going on. That's super exciting with classes and stuff coming up. Making other connections and getting things flowing. That's cool. I don't know. What's happening with you?
I don't know. Well, like we've talked about, we have this group coming together, and because I'm the one that's setting it up, it's amazing what shows up for me as far as I can go, everything's great, everything's wonderful, and then later on that day I might get things. So one of the things I got is like, why was I cussing? Why did I feel like it was necessary to cuss, right? Start questioning it. Well, then the deal is that last night I recognized it doesn't matter about the cussing, but it is a lower vibrational frequency. It is. That's what I'm noticing for me. So when I do that, it takes me lower, and then I start to go like, why are you doing that? Why are you putting yourself back into that space again? Instead of being like, oh gosh, maybe I'll look up some other words that might be the opposite of fuck. You know what I mean? From my perspective. And then so finding different words to express myself instead of using that word. So that's one of the ways, but it's also just paying attention. How does it feel in my body? Even when I just said it just now, it felt uncomfortable. I don't like it. So then it's like, why do I keep doing it? It's just like a lot of other things. So we're getting together. And so any of the areas that my self-confidence has weakness, which a lot of it does. I mean, it's not as strong as it will be. It'll be stronger. It's even stronger now by going through this stuff. And my other side of me, when I experience any of this stuff that feels like, because it's foreign and it's new and it's not part of my template. So I start second guessing everything and questioning things, and questioning things is good. And second guessing things isn't bad either. It's just helps me to learn how to be more tuned in, turned in, and turned on. I don't know. I am not Esther or Abraham Hicks. So I'm just saying that, but they have great phrases. But that's one of the things that I've noticed, and I don't know about something that you noticed early on, but it's something that I definitely have been experiencing. It seems to get better and better. And I go through this conversation about like, where is this coming from? You know, going deeper within inside of myself, and it goes into the fear things. It goes into not being accepted. You know, there's these little fears that come up, and it's so easy to say, you know what, we didn't set up a date for next time. We could probably skip it. You know, it's so easy for me to get into that space because let's face it, it's comfortable to stay in the space that's comfortable, period. And when we start going outside of that box, it gets a little bit scary sometimes, because now we got these triggers that are being enacted. If I believe that's the right terminology to use, but it's activating these experiences, and it's these triggers, and I really have to sit with it and understand it. And I know this goes back to childhood. This is not new stuff. It's not new at all. Gosh, I have so much stuff that's going on. We could leave it right there, and then we'll touch base on the other stuff if you've got, because you usually have some insight.
What's coming to me is a couple things, is based on the language you're using. Is there like a judgment around it, not from you, but coming from others based on the people who were there? It's just a question. It doesn't matter to me if you answer it or not.
Yeah,
and then the other thing is, like we've talked about, when spirit knows it's time for us to what I call move to the next level, then we're put in these uncomfortable situations, right? These situations are like, you're either going to learn and grow, or you're going to sit in it and steer in it. And so just knowing, you know, some of the people that were there, that it's an opportunity based on their perspectives and what's coming forward to catapult you in your own healing. And it could be for all of us who attended. It's just what we do with the information. But I'm feeling like you were guided to do this group. This is for you.
Oh, 100%.
And all the stuff that's showing up by however it's the messages are being delivered by, you know, sharing and just having those conversations, it's stirring that stuff within yourself to really draw out whatever's still stagnant. And like you said, you know, I could keep doing this, or I could say, that's it. I don't want to do this no more. So
100%. But that's the safe place. That's
right.
the safe place in the, you know, history of the traumas, the history of the victimhood, the history of the old templates. That's all history. And of course, when we're stepping forward into a path that's unknown, it is kind of scary because we don't know. But it's learning how to change it from scary to embracing it and being excited by it. Because I 100% agree with you that it is for me. Does everybody else benefit? Oh yeah, I saw some stuff and then I had conversations afterwards. It was awesome. It was really awesome. I mean, it is very possible that I could have picked up on an energy that would have been feeling that, which wouldn't matter either way, one way or the other, because it's really not my stuff. But it's just to fill that space. But I think my personal perspective on this is that there's something that I'm going to be doing that's so much more. And this is like easier for me to take the bites of, right? This is for my diet right now so that I can change things because I'm evolving right now. And this is gentle for me to work through this stuff when these emotions come up, because if it was something big and I was being put on the spotlight, I don't know, because I'm not there. But I always ask for my lessons to be with grace and ease, and my guidance to be with grace and ease, and my path to be, you know, it's just with grace and ease, so that I'm being able to embrace it and actually digest it, know that I'm actually eating these things and I'm digesting this, so I no longer have to carry it with me. So I just find it interesting. But that's how I felt. And then, like I said, it's not during, it's not after. I think this didn't even show up till the following day, or it might have been that, I don't know, it was around that time frame, but it was way after. And then every single one of them, I've had some emotional stuff that's gone on. The first one we did, I think I didn't feel good for the rest of that day. And the next day I was just like totally drained. But I'm also realizing, and I've done this before, is asking to feel the energies of others, but not to take it on. And it's remembering to do that, because even in my space, sometimes it's easy to take it on. As soon as you start going into that story with them, whether they're mad and angry and you're like, oh yeah, that's bullshit. You know what I mean? Whether you're going on with that information, or you just kind of, or they're emotional and crying and stuff. And a lot of times, and it catches me off, like it totally catches me off, because I'll be working on a person and they'll emotionally have a reaction. Sometimes I am affected, sometimes I'm not. And when I'm affected, it's like immediately I'm crying, and it's not even mine. But I also believe that it helps facilitate the other person by helping relieve them of some of that they're not able to process.
So
But again, I don't have to take it on. I can look at it. And I think there's times that I know on a soul level that this is beneficial to help them remove it. On other people, it's not beneficial to help facilitate that area, or it would just naturally happen because that person needs to do their own work, or they need to look at something, or they work on their own belief system.
And we go back to you saying, you know, this is a way for me to take it in bite-sized pieces. This is the up level of you maintaining your energy, because one-on-one, you've been doing really good with that. Not on the other person's stuff, right? Now it's a group. Now there's multiple, which is a whole nother level of how am I going to maintain myself? And it's not like showing up like, I got to be the strong one. I got to, you know, not show any emotions. I'm not talking about that. It's maintaining the energy so they're not absorbing it, because now what was there, like 10 of us thereabouts, and that's a lot of different energies in one room, in a smaller room. And you know, you're basically the forefront. You put this together. It's like you're looked at as the person in charge, and to hold that space for that many people, it's different. And I, you know, I can speak from experience because I stepped into teaching classes, and you have no idea what's ever going to show up. So it's like, how am I going to stay centered within myself? How am I going to hold this space for these people and maintain my energy? Right. So there's a lot more energetic responsibility. And I just think that this is your you went from first grade to second grade type thing. You know, it's like and as you know, as a teacher, recognizing that the majority of the time is, you know, I'm talking earlier when I started teaching, that when I would feel that emotion come up, first of all, I had to recognize, is this me absorbing their energy and getting into that space as well? Or if they're having an emotional moment, or am I being triggered by my own story? So then I would have to take that information and discern it. And if it was my own story, then I would go do some of my healing, and then show up for the next class. And so having that awareness is super important, that, you know, am I being triggered by what they're sharing? Because then that's going to propel me into doing more healing with my story, myself. So it's not that I show up on I don't like emotionless. As a teacher, I show up emotionless. It's not that at all. It's just, I'm not triggered by what they're bringing up. And if I am, now I know I got my own stuff to work on. So showing up as a teacher or showing up as a group facilitator is holding that space. I'm still vulnerable. I still share stuff, but because I've been doing the work on it for a while, I don't I'm going to say dip into the heavy emotions of it. Like, I don't sit there and cry and sob in front of my class, but I do share my stories. This is what happened. This is the way I perceived it. This is, you know, how it affected me. This is what I did to heal. So now it becomes a space of sharing instead of a space of I'm still in the story and what I'm going to say is a victim to my story and being triggered by it. So I hope all that makes sense. But I just think this is an opportunity for you for the next expansion of yourself to be in a group setting. For sure. There's no doubt.
Yeah. I mean, I get everything that you're saying. I would say that I do, my question to myself is, and I do that, especially when I leave the classes, it's my energy. So I specifically ask right away. And usually when I ask that, if it's mine, it'll stay there. If it's not, I might see the person's face. The energy might just completely disappear. The name might come along with it. So I do that for sure. And then of course with the group, I really feel like this is more triggering me, that I'm having to step out and be seen. And that's not always easy. It's not always easy. And it's not really from that space, because it's everybody that I'm in that group with. The group feels comfortable to me. I don't feel uncomfortable for it. And it's because to me, it's just the people coming together. It's just people coming together, have conversations. So to me, there's a bonus. It was the group was awesome, but I will go through, like, certain things will start popping up later. And it was just like, why did you say that? Why did, and it wasn't, that's not from anybody else. That's just my stuff. And then again, I will bring back the fact, for me, it doesn't feel high vibing. It just doesn't. It feels like it feels uncomfortable. It feels like it dips. It just doesn't feel high flying at all. So it's recognizing, okay. So then talking to myself, well, you showed up, you did great. And then next time you'll just even do better. It's just not even a matter of that. And just even realizing, even just when we said it a little bit ago, or when I said it a little bit ago, I didn't like the way it felt. It's got a different energy about it. Like, think about it. When we're out there and we even use the F word, it's like a lot of other words. They have an emotional attachment to them. We use them to express ourselves and to express emotions. So that would come up like that. And it's like, it's not even necessary. So it's just something that didn't feel good. I didn't like the way it felt. So what am I going to do about it? Well, I'm going to change the words. I'll change the words so I'm not, to where I do feel good. Something I've been kind of doing, like on Facebook, and I think it's all related. I want people's stories. I want you to tell me about the good stuff. Everybody is so focused on negativity all the time. They're so focused on these the information that's out there. I'm not denying that the stuff's not going on in the world, but we can't create something different by being in that space, which goes along with everything that we're saying. If we want to dip into that energy, if you want to lock into something and go, what do they call it? I don't know what, going underground or whatever. I can't, it slipped my mind because it's not part of my conversation anymore. But you go down the rabbit hole. You go down the rabbit hole and you start finding all this information. And guess what? All the information, depending on where you're looking, is not looking so good. It doesn't feel good. But I want people to recognize, just like we've talked about, how many times do you come home at the end of the day and you say all the good things you did instead of all the bad things? And I'm getting people, like I've gotten a couple of stories. My sister shared a story which totally brought me back to childhood. I'd forgotten all about, but she'd said, oh gosh, I remember being in the summertime and we were always in water, like always in water to try to be cooling off. And we were having a blast. We'd be sitting in our dog's water dishes, you know, those metal tin things or whatever the hell they're made out of. And we would sit in those right across from each other, splashing around it, like all crunched up in it and splashing around in it, just having fun. That's the stuff. It's like, I have a person, I kind of expect her to put a story up, but it's like she had gone into a gas station here and she was picking up bags of ice. I told you this, but it's a good story. Picking up 10 bags of ice, blocks of ice to take down to the animal shelter because it was hot and they wanted to help cool them down. And while she's in line, she's like, I want 10 bags of, you know, this block ice. And the guy, and she says why she's doing it. And the guy behind her says, I'm going to match her and I'll load your vehicle up for you. Like went in and loaded it all up. These are good stories. These are stories that this is the news. This is the news to share, because then we create more of it instead of being attached to the drama of the news and like, oh God, now they're doing this, because that constant roller coaster, because a lot of times we get motivated that way. A lot of people do get motivated that way. My motivation before was from anger. Of course, you hurt my feelings or whatever. What's going to come up? Anger, because it's all a fear of not being good enough. But it does, it totally activates that and it gets you moving. So I want people to start looking at the opposite side. And then I realize it's not about them. It's about what's this inner dialogue that I've been having, because it's not a very good inner dialogue all the time. Just like I said, even with the F word or any of the words, yeah, they're just words, but how I'm using it or how I'm saying it, for me doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel correct. So I can continue going down that path and still using the word and be like, screw it, I'm just going to say it anyways. I don't give a shit. Or I can be like, it doesn't feel good. It's just a simple gauge. It just doesn't feel good. Okay, what can I do differently? I can listen more. I can find different words. I can meditate. There's a lot of things I can do.
Do what feels good.
Exactly. Just like I watched you during the group and you're scribbling, you know what I mean? And I've done that a few times before too. So then I thought, well, you gave me permission to remind myself to come home and do that again. So I sat with doing that, you know, like a lot of them do. And I felt like all of a sudden I went from my third eye, like I was connected to the pen, to the ballpoint pen, to the pen on the paper, to the paper, like it was this whole thing. And then I felt it all the way back into my body again. And then my third eye felt crazy. And then I started having different information come in. It's like all these things that are going on all the time, showing up for us. And then all we have to do is show up. That's it.
And I'll tell you, I don't normally scribble. And I was even sitting there doing it thinking, why am I doing this? Because this isn't something I do. So now I know. Thanks.
Well, it's for both. It's awesome. It's awesome. And that's what I like about people getting together like this with like-minded conversations, because there's confirmations. And that's the thing. It's to be like, who cares if they say no? It's to be, well, gosh, I felt like you were thinking about me and you were having a lot of struggle with this, and I felt this, and then mentioning it to them. What's the worst that could happen? Did they say no? And that doesn't mean that you're wrong. Not necessarily. It means that maybe the words you use don't fit with that person. Maybe they're not tuned in yet to understand what you're talking about. Not a big deal. It's just to keep going. It's not to be in the past that would have sideblinded me or would have knocked me totally off balance. And now it's like, okay, well then what's the next information that's going to come in? It's just allowing that information to flow and not having a control over it. It doesn't matter how I see it. I hear people all the time and they're constantly saying, oh yeah, well, I got this message Did you share it? No, because I was afraid. Gosh, who was I listening to? I was listening to someone yesterday and they said, um, this lady, she does not practice as a psychic medium. She was being interviewed, I think, by Alex, maybe Alex Ferrari, Next Level Soul. But he was talking to her and she had said something that she had learned how to communicate with her father because her father had transitioned. And then during one of the communications, this other person came in and as a little boy, and she would see certain things and she's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I'm going to have a look. Like, she's asking her dad, like, why is this person coming in? And he's letting her know because it's a connection. He's connected to her father on the other side, which comes in to communicate with her. She's connected with this mom of this child that had transitioned. So it's like all how everything just kind of works together. And then he shares, or she's like, give me some more information. And he says something that shows her like these big, huge, broad stripes. They're like black and yellow or whatever. No clue. Well, she's sitting out there. She doesn't share this information with the woman. She's sitting on the benches. They're watching a game. And the mom actually came over and sat by her. And she's like, I'm really having a hard time right now. I'm really having a struggle. She said, I was at the graveyard, the gravesite, and I'm asking my son for signs because I want to know that he's okay and that he's there. And does he dance with me, or well, I don't know, something about dancing. And she says, well, you know, it's kind of strange, but I'll tell you that I saw your son and looked like he was doing like a roundhouse kick. And then she's like, oh yeah, he used to do that. And then she says, then he showed me these broad stripes, you know, these really thick stripes on this clothing that they had on. And she's like, I don't know anything about that. But just like you said, the scribbling, which helped me come in to practice that at home. It helped the mom. Now her focus is on something else. So it's not on the grieving right now, it's possibilities. Gives me goosebumps. She goes home and she starts watching this video of him. I don't know if it was a Christmas video or something, but with him doing a roundhouse kick or whatever. And then him like being all happy. Every time he opened up a present, he'd come over and it was Christmas and he'd come over and give them a kiss and thank him and, you know, and love them. And then at one point they were dancing together and she's like, oh, she got to dance with them again with that energy because she could feel it. And then she says that, you know, she's watching it a little bit longer and then he comes all the way forward and gets right in front of the screen. And then she could see these big, thick stripes. And it's like stuff, that's like stuff that Suzanne Giesemann would say, that's evidential because it's information that's coming through that's not in the mom's, you know, their immediate information that we can access. Like you said, we can access the information of how someone's feeling in their space. That's like in their, what is it called? And it's in their aura, but it's in their like vortex. It's just in that space that we have access to. And it's so awesome, but that's how these things happen. And that's why it's so very important for us to share this information. And it was awesome that Spirit brought her over to sit down right next to her and just to like voice how she felt about this, not having no clue how it was going to turn out, what information she was going to receive. And then now this girl has this feeling like that was awesome that she had this. She got to share in something to help uplift somebody else, which is amazing.
Yeah, and it's the fact that she even listened to that guidance to go sit next to this lady.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's part of it too. You receive that intuitive guidance to go do something outside of probably a norm for you. And you listen, and then a message could come through, a conversation could be had, a gift might be given, like things just happen. And that happened not too long ago. I don't remember if I shared it on here. But I was at the gym and I typically find dimes a lot. I mean, I find pennies, but dimes, right? And so I went to use this one specific piece of equipment where somebody was on it. So I went over to do an ab machine that you lay down on with for the lower abs. And typically when I would sit up and turn to the left, which is towards the front of, looking towards the front of the building. But something said, turn to the right. And when I did, and I kind of looked down, the machine next to me, there's the support leg on the bottom on the floor. And just like halfway showing side by side was a dime and a penny. Right. And so I could have done anything else, knowing that this one machine was being used. I could have done anything else in that gym. but I was like, guide it, go do. And I don't normally do this particular machine for my lower abs. I'll do it once in a while. And I was like, well, I'll just go do that, whatever. And so just listening to those things, those little nudges, those little whispers can turn out to be so amazing.
I 100% agree. It's like, yeah. So even an example yesterday, I pick up my granddaughter and I always ask her, because there's 3 routes to come home. I can come home the back way, I can come home the highway, or I can go through the mountains. And sometimes she'll say, I want to go the highway because it's faster. And then other times she'll be like, I'm going to go through the mountains. And yesterday it was raining. So I thought, when I looked over to the highway, I could see that it was getting rain. So I thought, I was like, well, we can get to the house faster because I was late picking her up. I'm like, we can get to the house faster if we go the highway. We can go play and you can get some food. You want to eat some snacks so we can hurry up. And she's like, I want to go the mountain way. And I'm like, yeah, but it could be rain, Grandma. I want to go the mountain way. I'm like, okay. We went the mountain way. We got to see a deer, which was awesome. She got to see the deer. I get to see the deers a lot. She got to see it, so that was exciting. And then we actually missed all of that rain, and because sometimes people get a little bit, it was just safer to go that route, and it was beautiful. We got to see a deer, and we missed all that stuff, and got on the highway, and she was just having a blast, foot hanging out. She took her shoes off and her socks off, and has her foot like slightly out the window to see if she can catch the water splashing up to hit her feet or anything like that. So just playing and having a good time. Wouldn't have had that experience if we had gone the other way, because I got my mindset, oh, we're late. I want to spend more time with you. Let's hurry up and get going. Even though I'm always saying we're spending time right now. What do you mean? We're not wasting time. We're spending time right now, I tell them. And then here I was having that experience.
Yeah.
Which I want to bring up. So we've brought up this book numerous times. Anybody that's seen it. It's awesome. And I want to say, this is so useful. It's not, for me, I've been using it for myself forever. And if someone asked me something, or someone was having a problem, like, hey, we could look at the book, I'll send you the information when it shows up. So that way they can do their own work on it. But it's also beneficial for us to look at this when we have someone else, a loved one, that's having some of these experiences. And then we have an idea, where are they coming from? And then we can approach them and help them to heal by asking spirit, asking our souls to connect with that soul, and asking how we can be of assistance. How can we help them with this? Where is it coming from? And then be able to give them some information, or just to even have a better understanding for yourself, and recognizing where it's coming from on their path, and not having a judgment about it, but being like, oh, okay, this is what's going on. My daughter had taken my grandson in to the dentist, and they said that he's got like 6 cavities. Well, they showed up on the x-rays, but you can't visibly see him in his mouth. And I said, well, I think he's missing something. What was coming through yesterday was that he needs to, which I just trusted, he needs to have more calcium. But I also suggested to my daughter to look at the book, but I suggested to her, find out exactly what teeth are made of, because something's missing in his diet. You can add it to his diet with foods. So not having to do it with anything else. But then I looked at the book and I looked up cavities, and I found it interesting because one of my daughters had cavities when they were younger. So the thing that it says is self-neglect, anger, resisting forgiveness of those who have hurt you, too serious about life, carrying shame, critical of self and others, stubbornness, aggression, wanting things your own way, lacking sweetness, inspiration, and gentleness. Now, I could process that a few different ways. I could say, oh, yeah, my grandson being at his age, he has a big understanding of a lot of the stuff. Probably not. My daughter, when she was going through her cavities, 5 or 6, around Colton's age, was experiencing similar stuff, and we ended up getting the teeth fixed. We had them worked on. They were baby teeth, but it was so it wouldn't carry on to the other teeth. But the thing is, it's not to go and fix it. For me, it was to dig deeper. Now I actually have a better understanding of my daughter and my grandson, because I decided to look at this from what they were carrying from their ages. My perspective is, it wasn't theirs that they were carrying. It was somebody else's they were carrying. This is what they grew up in. This is what their tools were at the time. Am I going to beat myself up about this? No, but I can do and be better from here on out, and I can help them in that way. Does it solve the problem? Could. I don't know yet. just came to a realization just this morning. But that, I just wanted to bring this book forward again because it is so beneficial when we look up, when you have kids and you have partners and you have everything else and they've got these signs that they were born under, and you look up what is their sign through Chinese astrology, what is their sign through Celtic astrology, like looking up this information, because all this information supplies information about that person and you have a better understanding about how they operate. I can use Capricorns as an instance because my son-in-law and my grandson are both Capricorns. So they're about structure. I mean, there's certain things that they're about. They're about their word. They're about, and their words are literals. Not everybody has used their words literal. So there's like so much information that I gain. And now I know how to operate from in that space and to help them even grow. And they help me grow at the same time. It's easier to be in service and think that you're helping the other person, but you really are helping yourself when you're doing these things.
Yeah. And so for anybody listening just to the audio, Bev's referring to The Secret Language of Your Body by Ines Segal.
There you go.
There you go. Yes, I agree. We can take that book, we can look at it, what other people are going through, and it's another tool to help someone be more compassionate. That's what I find. Like, I can be compassionate toward what the book is referencing and having an understanding of what the other person is experiencing.
It's almost like confirmation too, right?
Oh yeah. The thing is that I can utilize that information for myself as an understanding for what somebody else is going through. The other side of that is, because I've read these things to people, like I'll either read it to them and sometimes they're just, I can see it, I can feel it within them, but they don't see it or feel it within themselves because of denial, because of not wanting to acknowledge it, because we do that too. We don't want to acknowledge it because then if I acknowledge it, now I got to do something about it or not. But we don't want to. I don't want to go there. And so if they're in that space of not seeing it for themselves or knowing it for themselves, a seed's been planted. And like you said, it's not for me to fix it. It's not for me to say, you need to do this, you need to hire me. No, it's about their journey. And however they take the information and whatever they do with it. Now, what might happen, because the seed has been planted, then later they may be, triggered in another way. And then the information becomes relevant. Then they understand it's the seed, right? And so, but I definitely know when I read, especially of other people's possible emotional status, having that understanding and awareness, that brings so much more love into my heart. So I express that towards them, right? To be comforting, guiding, soothing, empathetic, whatever it is that shows up in that moment.
Yeah, because sometimes there's been times that there's no way I could have tuned in. There's no way. I don't, at that time where I was coming from, I was oblivious. And I would not have had an understanding. And of course, that would trip all my triggers if someone would have came in and started saying, well, you know what's going on. You're just angry and blah, blah, blah. Well, at that time, I don't, what do you mean I'm angry? I don't know how I would have responded to it, because I wouldn't have had enough awareness to even pay attention to how I was even responding or how I was feeling in that moment.
Yeah.
So it is interesting, and it does help us to love them more, because we just see that they're just another child of God that's having their own experience.
And sometimes that process, when I share with them the information from that book, it gives them a permission to finally, like a release.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, Amy's hearing it, Amy's getting it, Amy's seeing me, Amy is having an understanding, and I feel safe, I feel comfortable with her and sharing my story or whatever I might be going through. So it's giving them an opportunity to be seen and heard, because what do? We just feel like we're alone in our story. We're alone. Nobody's going to get it, or people are going to judge me or criticize me. I'm the last person to be judging anybody. So I'm just saying, like, nope.
I hear you. And it's another form of practice too, because if you're working on someone, it might give you some understandings about some of the emotions that you're picking up on that person. Not saying that it's 100% accurate, but I'm just saying you can check in with it. I know it's outside of ourselves because we can find the information from within. We can actually go into the person's information with permission. And I don't always ask someone verbally with that person, but I will ask them from a soul level if I have permission to go in, because I don't want to be invasive or go where I'm, that it's not okay for me to go. Just blindly thinking I'm fixing somebody, I know how to fix it. I can go in there and fix it, but it's not just doing it without asking for permission. So like I said, I'll ask for permission. I will ask their soul for permission. And then I go with my responses. My responses, I could hear a yes or a no. I could feel a vibration in my third eye for a yes, or I could feel a tugging or a pulling on the left side of my face to let me know that's a no. Or my head will actually make a nod forward or a turn, like it's going to say no. So it's just however it comes in. It depends on where I'm at, how connected I am at that moment, how much am I having an awareness to it? What other activities are going on that's maybe distracted me? Because sometimes that happens and I might just get the forehead, or, instead of the full shake of the head or the yes. But we do get lots of information that way. That being said, we all can do this. I'm listening to a gal that's, I think she's phenomenal. She's amazing. And I'm at the gym with her yesterday. And she says, oh yeah, when me and my kids we went to Vegas, my daughter says, okay, mom, pick a number. And she's like, oh, are we doing this right now? And she says, yes. And she tells her daughter, okay, I want you to pick a number between 1 and 10, and I want you to bring it into your third eye area. I want you to see that, focus on that. And then she says, opens up her eyes and she says the number 5. Oh my God, mom, how'd you do that? She says, we all can do this. And I told her, I said, it's crazy that you brought that up, which again, it's not crazy because it was for me. Now she's saying it, but it's for me. It's practice, because I have the book and it says you can pull out a deck of cards. You can practice with suits. Like, what suit are you picking up? Don't just guess, like hold on to it and really connect in with that card and see what you get. You can do the same thing with crayons for colors, or swatches of material, or playing with numbers across from someone. You can do numbers. You could do, letters. There's a lot of things that you can't do in that space. You can find ways to do it by yourself, but it's great to do with another partner, like maybe for a half an hour, no more than a half an hour. Each person gets that opportunity to flex that muscle, because that's all that it is. And it's helping us get tuned in more to be able to have all this information, to be able to share it. It's beneficial for ourselves, for our own healing. It's beneficial for those around us, the insights that come in. And just like that story I was talking about with the mom, with the lady that doesn't practice as a psychic medium, but I believe that she would be amazing. She's giving out information to this mom, just like that, just sharing that information, because we all can do this. And how much it changed her after that. She was no longer realizing that she was the victim or sad and missing and all this other stuff. She realized that she has the dance and she could watch it over and over and over again to experience the feeling of that. She realized that he's, around, he's alive and well, just not in the physical body. And he's sharing information with her, and it totally changed her. It uplifted her. It shifted her life just by those words, just by trusting ourselves that the information that's coming through and just sharing it, however it came through, it doesn't make sense to us. Half the time it won't make sense to us because it wasn't our experience.
Right.
It was another person's experience. So how is that going to make sense? So it's interesting. I find it interesting. There was a person that I told I know that her grandmother had passed away. I saw this woman. She was a thin woman. I saw red short hair, or like hair up. And I asked her and she says, I don't think I've ever seen red. I don't care. I just know what I saw. All I'm doing is relaying exactly what I see. And it's not even so I don't have to have an attachment to it. So that's easy. If we want to go back to the beginning of the conversation, one-on-ones are easy with that, because then you could just move through with it. But then you have a bunch of different energies and different energies that are working through stuff too. It was really awesome. I got such insight from my during that meeting. Such insight, because my sister and one of my daughters was there. My other daughter couldn't make it, but it was just awesome because it was so, the way we can talk to each other is just from a neutral space and getting information and asking questions that we had never asked each other before. So it's just, it was awesome. Again, yeah, it was for me, but I mean, it's also for everybody else too, because it's just like my friend sharing the story about doing that with her daughters. She's just sharing it, and her telling her kids, you can do this. Anybody can do this. It's just practicing. And it was just a reminder to me, just like scribbling on the paper was a reminder to me to go back home and do that, reconnect again. It's a reminder, go do it again, do it again. So I did it again. And it was interesting. So it was fun.
Well, and that too is people receiving this information. So me just sitting there, because I was what, 4 feet away from you, is acknowledging. So when those messages are being delivered, or that guidance is being delivered in whatever way it comes through, because we never know, right? But you being present, you acknowledging, Amy's sitting there scribbling. What is that? Why am I seeing this? What is that telling me? Or you already knew, you already had a connection with it, and it was just a reminder for you. And so when we're asking for help and guidance, that information, that those answers can come from any direction at any time, in any form. Are we going to be willing to acknowledge those messages and do something with it? So, similar to working with a client is, I may already feel and have a knowingness, energetic, from energy, from intuition, what's going on with this person, because that's what you were saying. We can already tune into this. We can already know without even having the book. So I could say it to them, and they could be like, right, whatever. But when I pull the book out and say, okay, well, let's see what Inna Segal's book says about it.
Yeah.
And I open it up and I read them these words about emotional attachment that could be the probable cause of whatever's going on in their body. It's just a different way the message was delivered. And again, are they still going to be in denial about? I would say 10 out of 10 times, I will tell them something, and it's like, I pull the book out and the book's confirming what I'm saying. It's like, so I'll flat out tell them, you already heard the message once. Now you're hearing it twice. Now it's being confirmed, validated. What are you going to do with it? And even at that point, it's their choice what they do with it. They could still push all that stuff down into the body and keep going and going about life, or they could start doing their own personal work, transformative work, whatever they want to do. So it's very interesting as humans, because our ego, right? I'm not saying the ego is a bad thing, but the ego butts in and says, you don't want to deal with that. You don't want to go back to that story. You don't want to feel those emotions, because it's protecting us, right? It's protection. And really on the other side of that healing process is freedom. There's peace. There's so much positivity when we go through the healing process of what our story has been and create a new story. And a lot of the stuff in our story that we've been carrying for so long, it's about perspective. Because you also, through this group conversation the other day, there was a conversation that came up and you're like, oh, your daughter or your sister had a different perspective than what you were processing. You're like, well, I didn't see it that way. Thank you for sharing that with me. So perspective plays a huge role, and that perspective is based on, well, when you were a little kid, you were seeing through the eyes of a little kid, and you were processing it the way you were seeing it at that time. And it was probably not even what was actually going on. It's like these stories we've conjured up and then we got become adults and we're still living through those stories that most likely aren't even true.
100%.
So it's like
Which you lead right into the next place. So that went from that conversation, part of the conversation was, my daughter had said, my perspective from when the kids were growing up is Jim and I would argue, or there was some stuff, there was stuff going on, stories, right? We tell stories and then we look back. One of the shockers for me, shocker, was after Jim had transitioned, I had started going through the pictures and realized we had a lot of happy times. And I didn't see it that way because somehow I was trying to be this positive person. I thought I was being a positive person, but at the same time, I had all this energy towards things that I thought were wrong, that these things were bad, right? Again, to go back to a story, like wanting to hear people tell good stories, it's the same thing. Going back to that. And then I have a perspective of it. Like, oh, I remember being at work and getting phone calls from both the husband and from the daughter, like, and they'd be fighting. And I'm like, I'm working at a jail. I'm a detention officer at that time. I can't come home and deal with this right now. You guys are gonna have to figure it out. But that they were this fighting and stuff going on. And a lot of that stuff I would kind of get connected to. Then my stories, right? I honestly don't even, I have to go all the way back to the beginning. And then am I really even going to have a clear perspective on that because of the stories that have been told so much? Then my daughter says, well, my relationship with my partner is this way. And I have expectations, which, having expectations a lot of times leads to us being let down because people are not going to jump through the hoops that you want them to jump through. And they can't read your mind to understand what your expectations are. But she told me, I always saw that you guys work together, you guys clean the house together, you guys always cook dinner together. And if you didn't cook it together, one would make it one night, the next would make it the next night. We would always work together and do everything. It wasn't that one person was doing something and the other one wasn't. There was always that partnership. And we would always have lots of deep conversations. We would go out and sit in the garage and have these deep conversations, but didn't remember all this stuff until I started hearing her perspective. Now, I haven't heard her sister's perspective on it. Again, I can go back to the cavities. She was born from me when I was a very angry person. Honestly, am I saying that she's angry? No, but am I saying that she could have harbored anger inside of her, even as that child? Yes. Yes, because she was harboring my anger. Again, I go back to, and what's hitting me is I go back to the conversation of sometimes I know when I'm working on someone that I will take whatever they have in their energy and I will dispose of it, or I say dispose of it, I will change it. I will send it to God's divine light to be sent back to where it needs to go to once it's been cleansed, cleared, and healed. And then I'm not saying that she's going to have that same perspective. She might have a different perspective from all that because she came from a different perspective. She came from a person that was angry, unsure of herself, pushing against the whole world. She came from that energy. Is it for me to fix? Well, a lot of the stuff I can fix from within inside of myself, and that can have a ripple effect on my whole family and everybody that's around us, the whole universe, everybody. It's just like us talking about these good stories. It changes the momentum of everything. It changes everything's bad to there's some good possibilities out there. And then there's like, things are great. I'm listening to conversations yesterday. I don't know, this world's bad. And it's like, where are you looking? Where are you looking? Because I see so much beauty in the world. I really do. Right? But I don't spend my focus on those other areas. But does that mean that I've got it all figured out? No, it doesn't. Because I just told you there's a lot of things that I still have within inside of me. And I don't know they're there until something triggers it to bring it forward. And then now I'm like, holy crap, that's there. That's interesting. Oh, I sure got a lot. I'm learning a lot about myself. And it's a good thing. It's not something to beat yourself up about. It's just an awareness.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, even I've had a perspective about my relationship for a while, and it has been the story has been created from my childhood story of abandonment. And when my husband decides to leave in the morning to go to work, and then he doesn't come home till 9-10 o'clock at night because he's decided to go after work to go hang out with his buddies and do whatever they're going to do, that abandonment issue is triggered. if a friend, I have a friend for a while and then there's no communication, that abandonment issue is triggered, right? You just get triggered in so many different ways. And I had this just a week or so ago, was still the abandonment is an issue. So I'm just going to say, universe, what the fuck, right? Why aren't I over this yet? I've done so much healing. And when you're abandoned, it means that they're aware of you, but they're putting you on the back burner. They're putting you aside. They're ignoring you. They're not wanting anything to do with you. So when in questioning or contemplating this story about abandonment, it dropped in because I was finally in a space to receive this message, this information, meaning dropped in from spirit, from source, my higher self, God, whoever it was. The information dropped in and it said, he puts you first every single day when he gets up to go to work. Because he's our main income earner right now. He puts you first every single day. First thing in the morning. And I'm like, wow, that was such great information. And then what does that do for me? So it softens me. It more of an understanding about myself, more of an understanding about the relationship. Like there's so much that is affected. And cares if he decides to go to something else after work, that's his choice and it's his life. That has nothing to do with he's abandoning me. It has nothing to do with that story. I was putting the attachment to it. So yeah, totally freeing.
I love it. Those are big. When those kind of things come up, it's huge because we've been telling a story for so long, you know what I mean, to ourselves, and we have an idea of it.
But I couldn't receive that. I couldn't receive that information if I'm sifting in the pain of the abandonment.
100%. No, because you have to be, well, you don't have to be. For me, what I've been doing lately, I'm like, okay, there it is, blaring. It's yelling. It's right in my face. What's the solution? Because a lot of times I don't know what to do with that information. I don't, but it's asking, right?
Yeah. And this was, I had left the house. I had gone to do some errands, whatever I was doing, and I was driving home and it just popped up. Okay. What is my attachment to abandonment? What is, right? And I just started doing that while I was driving. So I wasn't sitting at home. I wasn't wallowing in my pain. I was just, the topic came up and in my head and I was like, okay, let's inquire about this. And I was pulling into my driveway and it came in. He puts you first every single morning when he gets up to go to work. I was like, what? That was a cool answer, universe. That was a cool answer.
And that it is cool because it's something that you wouldn't have came up with. It wasn't just something that came to you that you just figured out. It was dropped into you. That information was given to you.
Yeah.
And then because you could understand the perspective, maybe when you were angry before, you'd been like, whatever, you know what I mean? Because you've gone through so much changes and you've done so much internal, I don't want to say work. I want to use a different word, like so much internal
clearing,
looking at everything, like just awareness. So there's so many other things that are going on in that moment.
Yeah.
But the awesome thing is too, just to even have figured out that it was abandonment in the first place. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I just want the audience to know that, like, you gotta be in a space of ask the questions. We've been talking about this for how long? At least 2 years. Been doing our videos for over 3 years. So at least 2 years, almost every single week, we bring up the idea you got to ask, right? You got to ask for help. You got to ask the universe. You got to ask somebody for help. And be curious about yourself. Why is this abandonment issue still showing up? What is it that's triggering me? What is it right? And just keep asking these questions, and bam, the information comes, and it comes with such subtlety. Right? There was nobody there to yell at me. He put you first no, it was he put you first every single morning.
Yeah. So gentle.
Like it was so cool.
I love it.
So with that, I know of somebody who has a drinking struggle with drinking alcohol, hard alcohol, has been in rehab. It's nobody you know, or anybody that probably listening at the moment would know. A lot of internal anguish over his lifetime. And he has been asked, do you want to talk about it? Have you seen a counselor? Have you, taken any steps to share what's going on within you and about your life? And he's like, no, that's for me to know and nobody else. And he just checked himself into rehab again. And first of all, that's awesome. Somebody's taking the steps to recognize I do need help, and taking that step because it's focused on the alcohol. And just knowing what I know about what I do, when you got those layers of pain and stories within your body, and you're just keep pushing them down and not wanting to let them out, let them be released. From my perspective, my opinion, my thought process is, if it's not the alcohol, if he has this remedy with the alcohol, it's going to be something else. Something else that's going to be used, some other
Distraction. Yeah.
Distraction or substance that's going to be used to keep that put the Band-Aid over the pain. And I just want people to hear that, because this is what leads to substance abuse. It also leads to suicide, is when you're trying to put the Band-Aid on the pain and just keep pushing it down in the body, it's still living in the body and the energy is still there. So again, I've said this before, whether it's a life coach, coach like there's so many different titles of coaches, a counselor, therapy, whatever it might be, have somebody that you feel safe with to have these conversations to move that energy out of the body. Because you're here for a reason at such a time as this. I know it's not always easy, but it could be. It could get easier, but we got to move or shift the energy that you've been storing in the body for so long. And that includes your thoughts, because whatever stories you're storing in your body, you're still thinking about them. You're still processing them. It's the idea that this situation happened once. I was molested, right? Whether it was once or 10 times or 20 times, it's a very low number compared to the 100,000 times I've relived it. Okay, so we don't have to relive it, because when we move that energy, when we have a way to express the story or express the pain or talk about it, then it's shifting that from internally to externally, and you start to have relief in the body. So take the steps that you need, that feels good to you, to move that from your body and get it out.
Yeah, because you really you lose your power by doing all that stuff. It's like feeding yourself poison. You're feeding yourself poison, and your body wants to regurgitate it, wants to get rid of it because it's not beneficial, it's not helping. And you're like, nope, we got to keep it in there, shove it down. I don't want to feel it. And I understand. I say it like that because there's a lot of things that I didn't want to feel, but I didn't even have an awareness that I was trying to avoid feeling these things. I didn't have an awareness that by excessively cleaning or doing things all the time was just distracting me from being able to sit with myself and to deal with whatever's going on within here. And it's not a punishment. It's very relieving. It's very freeing. It's those stories that are inside of you have so much power until you start letting them out. And then you realize they don't have any power at all. And then you become neutral. I have become neutral with a lot of things that I've worked my way through. Now that I'm on the other side of it, I can see that I'm neutral about it. I don't it's like telling someone else's story. I don't have a feeling about it. I'm not for or against it. I don't have any energy that's going one way or the other. There's nothing holding on to it anymore. I think like one of the things we said, we're always trying to grasp for something new, but we can't grasp for something new when our hands are closed in like fists because we're holding on to the past. We're holding on to things that can't allow us to grow. You don't grow from, I mean, you can grow from that, but you can't, if you're feeding yourself that information over and over and over again, those stories, those feelings, the emotions, all of it, you've given yourself poison and you're just trying to keep it inside that body. And it does it over time. What happens is it breaks it down, and it doesn't break it down for a punishment. It breaks it down to say, hey, look at me. I'm this little kid right here. I need to be seen. I need to be heard. And it's not by everybody else. I need to be seen and heard by you internally.
And I just want to bring up, because I see this on Facebook, and I have to pause every time I see it and just take a breath, because people post on their fuck cancer.
Oh yeah.
Like, well, I personally I just have to take a pause and breathe when I see it, because first of all, even though that person's your friend or your relative, you really don't know what's going on inside, meaning mentally and emotionally. You don't, because people can put a mask on their face like, hey, I'm good. But because I did it for so many years, but internally just be an absolute mess. And so first of all, you don't know their story. You don't know their internal story. All their life experiences. You don't know that. You weren't with them 24/7. And even if you were, you would have a different perspective of what happened than what they had and how they processed it. So, and I think somebody asked Abraham Hicks about this, about why people get cancer, and it's just another indicator of what we have going on inside. Every person on the planet has it. Well, majority of the people have the cancer cell in their body, but that's like a little button. That's how is it going to be triggered to make it activated to start developing in the body to where it starts consuming the body. And so if we were to embrace it, because then once we understand that, and we grabbed in his Segal's book, The Sacred Language of Your Body, and read about what cancer, the emotional attachments of cancer, and have that compassion of, oh, I have an understanding of what this person might be going through or might be processing within themselves, that I didn't have that awareness before. All I know is they have cancer and they're going to die. Well, we're all going to die. We're all going to leave the planet. It's just a matter of what mode of transportation are we taking to get to the other side. So when somebody has a diagnosis, there's more going on than just the diagnosis.
And when you were saying that, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, and it's up to the individual what they do with it. If they feel like they have a life-ending sentence, that's it. They're not going to stay. If they want to live life and create memories the best they can while with the time that they have left, they're going to do that. If they want to change their eating habits and look into anything and everything that will help them to be here longer, they're going to do that. So it's like we don't have any control on how they receive their diagnosis and what they do with it. What we can do is love them through it. What we can do is help create those memories with them, and so that we have those memories to clear up any discord you might have with that person, and so that there's no regret or guilt once they transition. So any diagnosis gives us the opportunity to do good things.
100%. And if you realize cancer is nothing more than just a messenger.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's an insight. If someone so chooses to take a look at what's going on, it's an opportunity. But like you said, I have been around, I have personally not for me, but for my mom, or, that had transitioned because of cancer. And I know that once that she got that, like, that's it, this is it. your stage 3, or stage 4, whatever the final thing is, the final frontier. So not final, but whatever, it was her way out. It was like, okay, this is it. I'm taking this path now. And I think we do have, and I've heard others say it, we have many exit points
Yeah.
that we have. And on a soul level, I think a lot of times we know. And then some of those things aren't meant for us to fight against. Some of those things are just to, maybe we had an intention to heal ourselves within before we transitioned, so that we can have a better connection once we are transitioned, so we can be more beneficial to all those that are still here in the physical body, and to be a guide and to be helpful and stuff like that. So there's always opportunities for through healing and stuff. Sometimes that healing, when you go through that healing, it's just a matter of where did it all stem from. It doesn't mean that it healed the body. It just means that it healed the traumas, that healed the mind, it healed a lot of the other stuff. And it was their time to go anyways. So like I said, it's just the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. The
Yeah.
messenger is coming in to help give you information, like insight of what's going on within yourself. If you want to look at it, right? That's the same thing. And the drinking before, I've gained such a different perspective on a lot of that. I don't, again, just like with the cussing, I don't, with the drinking, it doesn't serve me. There was a time that it did serve me from the place that I was at. Now, if I have a drink, it just doesn't resonate with me. It's just not my thing. It doesn't do anything for me from that space. If anything, I feel like it drops my level down, my frequency. I feel like I dip again, just like for me, again, with the cussing. I don't know what my path is. My soul knows what my path is. And maybe I do in some ways, and I'm not figuring it out, or I just don't believe it. So, I mean, who knows? But it's just to go on the path anyways, and just lead yourself down. We've got all these breadcrumbs. They're everywhere. We've put so much information out there for us. And we're talking about these little things that we're talking about now, these little, you overhear a conversation and they say something. I was listening to Belinda Womack's new book, and I was listening to that, and she's talking about the old woman and the old man and how they controlled things. And really, basically, it's old beliefs. Well, I'm still listening to the book. Well, then I got a message from someone else. Hey, listen to this. If you talk to yourself, these words, and they start talking about the old man beliefs. And it's like, holy smokes, like we always say this stuff. You can't make this stuff up. It shows up, but it's like it's showing up to give you confirmation. It's confirmation that you're going in the right direction. What does that mean? Even delve into it. See what that means to you. Delve into it with inside of yourself. Go into meditation. It was so awesome the other day, and I know you brought this up too, that someone was saying, oh, I just can't meditate. I just struggle with it. And it's immediately you heard what she was saying, and you waited till she finished, and then you told her, basically it's a mind dump. Have a notebook next to you the whole time. Everybody that's listening, I know that Amy's brought this up before, but we're bringing it up again because I know that someone's listening that will hear it, and it's time. Quit using the excuses that you can't do something. And when you can do something, when you can turn around and you can have your notebook handy, and every single thought that comes into your head, write it down. And then now it doesn't have to be there to remind you to do anything or to feed you the old story, any of this stuff. And recognizing a lot of these thoughts, asking yourself, is this true? Like a lot of things that we tell ourselves, it's not nice. Again, how do you know? You know how by how it feels. Just like for me, it wasn't so much that it was the cuss words or anything like that. It was just me to pay attention to this gauge that I'm in right now, and how does it feel? I noticed how it felt, and it was awesome. It's awesome because it gives me insight, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, I don't have to do that anymore. I can do something totally different, and it will feel better every single time. So it's amazing. I say that all the time, probably every freaking week, probably every day, numerous times, but it's absolutely amazing when you start playing with it.
All right. So you heard it from Bev. Go play with yourself. No, I'm just kidding.
See, gotta watch those words sometimes. You're funny.
Healing can be fun too. Just saying, we can have a sense of humor. We don't have to be serious.
It's better that way. It's better that way. And you can receive so much more information. Again, it's awesome.
Good. All right, my friends. There was a lot today. I hope you got something out of it. And I hope that you can think of somebody who could get something out of this. And if you do, please share us with them. And I think that's it. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, make a magical week.
Take care. We'll see you next week.
Bye.